All right, Patreons, we are back with a weekly update video. I didn't get this done yesterday. It was my kid's birthday. Forgive me. I know you guys don't mind much, but that's why I didn't get it done yesterday, is we had our birthday. So before I'm streaming, we're going to knock this out. We're going to get you guys through everything so you know where to put your money. Boost generator right now. Interesting place. With sugar doing what it's doing, if you can get it cheap, great. I've seen it down 12, 13K, snatch it up. It just helps out. Super waters are doing their thing. They do every wipe. You can see it. They get really expensive and then they fall right off. They climb back up and they kind of get steady again. We're doing that. Trying to predict what's going to happen this wipe is going to be nearly impossible. I do not know how the shorter wipe is going to affect the economy, especially with them having the loot turned up at the start the way they did, which I think they turned it back down. We'll talk about that later. Right now, I'm just crafting tons of moonshine and saving it. I do this every wipe. This is one of the few things I think it is still worth doing, simply because there is a big price difference. 50, 60, 70, sometimes 100K, depending on how long you wait per bottle, pays out big time, especially if you're crafting an early wipe really quickly. So that's all I'm doing. You can craft it at pretty much market prices and sell it and still make okay money. It's not great, but at least it's running. At least it's running, and it does help your flea market rating. Intel Center, nothing's making money. I'm assuming none of you guys have any of this because I don't, and you have to get through Lightkeeper to get it, or Intel 3, which is kind of both. So I won't talk about it too much. If you guys want more info on that, just let me know in the Discord, and I can spend more time researching specific crafts if you would like. Again, stay away from this craft. I don't trust this craft. I just don't. It's not worth the risk, in my opinion, unless you have a weapon storage key that's 1 out of 50, and you want to not use that last use. Then sure, you can make decent money with making an 11 SR. Or get it cheaper if you want to use it for yourself. Laboratory, bleach is king, and it will be for a while. We'll see how long the bleach barter, We'll see how long the bleach craft holds as far as profits. 15, 16K has been pretty steady. We have seen it trend down a little bit in the last 7 days. Weekends obviously are big bumps. The 1 month still has the wipe on it, which sucks because you can't get a really good view of the trend. But you can see it trend down here through the weekend. It might spike up back again this week. We'll see. But you're able to sell it for 16. Just get your crafts. Sodium under 30K, alkali under 15, soap under 9. Again, you're looking at about 50. We'll say 55K. If you can do 50, 55K on your components, it's going to be the best craft you can do. And then just sell it 16 or higher. That's what I've been doing. Mag cases, I just burn my fuel, and I'll do this until mag cases are not cheap enough, or my skill gets high enough that my grenade case is down to about 12 hours on the craft. Then I'll start and switch and doing grenade cases from magazine. But right now, this is just the way to do it. Fuel containers can be kind of pricey. These are the 0 out of 60s, but the price is pretty much the same. So just... that's what I'm doing with my long craft at night, is the mag cases. FP100s, you can start to make a little bit of money with these, especially if you can catch your water filters really low and used up. It's a pretty good deal. This will be expensive for a short period of time, as people aren't looting these because they're not worthwhile. Let's see if we can get last wipe. Not really good data. This sucks. Anyways, probably around 200 is the highest they're going to get. This is just an off thing here. Don't mind these. 200K is going to be about as high as you're going to see. 140, 150 is the price you should plan on selling. If you can get that, you're doing good, which means that this craft is okay at about 38K if you're using your used up water filters. Shampoo, pretty good. I've been liking this craft too. This is what I've been alternating with bleach, just because it's easy. I can buy a lot of soap. You just got to get your beers around 15K, which can be some days worse than others. I've been even if they're like 17, 18K, I'll buy them because you can also get like 19K for shampoo, which it's like every other day. So it just depends on how big of a stack you sell it in, but it's making 16K an hour. It's just an easy craft to cycle, which is why I do it. You can make your soap if you want. Again, I don't like this craft. It's just a lot of components to keep track of. Then we talked about the grenade case. M1 rigs, if you're able to get these 6B23s cheap, you can do okay with the M1 rigs. They're not going to hold this 160 for super long, this 160 average. In fact, you can see they already fell off here pretty hard, it looks like. 140, 150, they'll hold okay. But again, the key is to get these 6B23s just wrecked. You can get them for about 25,000 sometimes on fence if you're lucky, and that helps out a little bit with the pricing. But it's a long craft, so it's something to do overnight if you want to, and does help with the flea rating a little bit if you're looking at other things. Hoses is pretty much died up. just because of the cost of components, and the hoses have gotten cheap. And that's pretty much it for the laboratory. Med station. Probitols, you can just straight craft these. You don't have to worry. And the rule about using up Golding Stars no longer applies. If you use it, great. It makes it a little bit cheaper. But right now, you can just straight buy these components, craft, and it'll make you 24K an hour. I don't do it all the time because it's a longer craft, and I like to cycle faster crafts to level up crafting. So that's why I've been doing meds and cheeses. Is pretty much what I've been doing. Meds, just get your components at what you can get them. Augmentings are about 10 to 12K right now. So I just left the market in there. And then I'm going to sit on my meds found in Raid until I can get like 11 or 12K out of them. That will eat up a lot of space eventually, but it's junk boxes that I'm going to use as it is as I fill them up. So that's my plan. Plus, Crisis requires a ton of pile of meds. So I'll show you here just roundabout way to get through the wiki here. So if I go to the wiki on this, you need, and I say this because you need Crisis to craft the mule now. They don't have it updated on the wiki, but it is true. That's what, oh, there it is right there. So Crisis requires 20 pile of meds, all found in Raid, 10 Olo, 3 Letixes, 3 ophthalmoscopes, 3 portable defibs, which is why mules have been so expensive because nobody can craft them. As you can see, mules are running 170 something K peak, and that's why I have them zeroed out in here because nobody can craft them really yet. Once I can craft them, I'll start talking about them. But that's why I have them down here. So they just don't, because they'd show up at the top. They are a fantastic craft right now with how much they're worth. But anyways, sidetrack there. Grizzlies, if you're getting your components and selling your Grizzlies at 41K, you can buy full splints. If you're using them, even better. I shoot for about 41,000. You catch it about once or twice a day. This was Sunday night, which is always kind of weird, but you can catch that 41K and make that little bit of money, sometimes even a little bit higher. It's just they take up some space. If you're willing to sit on them or sell them cheaper, you can do that as well, but they're 21K an hour. Hemostats, this is just the recycling thing. If you have a 1 out of 3, there's no reason to not turn into another one. Sell it. You're going to end up making about 9K in profit, which you can use to buy more hemostats. AFAX, again, used up IFAX. Just a great thing to do with them once they get down to like below 100. If you get out of Raid with them, or if you see him on Fence, which I do sometimes, you can get them pretty cheap off of him, even cheaper than this. Turn them into an AFAC and sell it. CMSs, keep an eye out on this one. I will switch to this eventually because it's such an easy craft. I'm just waiting for med tools to get consistently below 10K, which they're pretty close there. They'll dip down there from time to time. But you're doing that, you're buying your cars, and then sell your CMSs when they spike for over 34K. You can get more than that, obviously, but it's just an easy craft. So I will switch to this eventually because of how easy it is to craft for cycling. SJ6s will do okay. I suspect these are going to get a little bit more valuable as we get into white. People get a little bit more money and they're doing loot runs and stuff. You'll see these prices tick up, but they're not great unless, like, if you have vitamins not found in Raid, or NACs not found in Raid, or SJ1s not found in Raid. This is what you want to use those on as the SJ6 craft. It's just the best way to get the most bang for your buck. IFAX, they do okay. I like crafting these sometimes if I forget and I don't have anything going on, because you can get all the components really cheap, and you can almost always sell the IFAX for at least 18K, if not 19 or 20 sometimes. And it's not great money, but again, right now I'm not so much about the money, but just cycling crafts to level up. The long craft is a defib with the intent to sell above 175. Don't sell it to market price. Don't vendor. I'll talk about that in a second, but almost every night these things will spike up into the 175. Because people are just buying them up or they're expiring and they need them for thick cases. Wait for a little while. I'm sitting on them, obviously, for Crisis, but I have a bunch of them in here. I just craft them every night, and I will sell these when I'm comfortable getting like 170K. Now, even if you're not doing that, if you just want to get rid of them at the market price and vendor them, which is 141,000, don't look at this because you make like 20K if you craft them with these components, 10K, 13K, 15K, as far as your caps, wires, and magnets, and then about 16K on your power banks. You can vendor them and still make about 7,000 in profit, or I'm sorry, 20,000 in profit, just vendoring them. So if you want to do that, keep that in mind. It is a good overnight longer craft, even though it's only 4 hours. It's okay. Serve kits, if you want to recycle, if you're looking for something, if you have a 1 out of 15 or 2 out of 15 serve and you want to recycle it versus vendor it, you can do that. What it's going to do is just basically get you a serve kit at cost. It's not a huge thing, but it's there just to point it out. Nutrition unit, slickers. Now, interesting thing is with the crackers, and I've never pointed this out before, and I don't know why, But if you're buying pile of meds, you can do the cracker barter, and I'm going to buy those because we're here. Never mind. Which is I'm looking at the wrong one. Hang on, sorry. We'll just go right to it. The cracker barter, which is one pile of meds, right? Gives you a cracker. Well, these are cheaper than crackers. You can get pile of meds for like 6, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, whereas crackers are like 14. So that's where this price comes from. Is 9 or the 8,000 here is because you're doing the barter for that pile of meds. Oat flakes at 20K, chocolate at 15K, and then try to sell your Slickers for 9. Sometimes you're only going to get like 8,500, which still works. You're making about 12K an hour. It's not a huge difference. Don't like when you're selling your Slickers, don't try to squeeze pennies out of them because it's just not worth them sitting. Sell them cheap, get them out because it's not really costing you all that much in the way of profit. 1 or 2,000 rubles versus eating up the slot on your flea market. Condensed milk is okay for a little bit longer. It's getting close to where it's not going to be. As long as you're getting your milk for 20K, sugar for 16K, you can vendor your condensed milks and be okay with that. Hot rods, this is what I craft overnight. 170K on your super water, 16 sugar, 21 on coffee, and 21 on your tea, and then shoot for about 17,000 on your hot rods, which you can get higher. You can get these into the 20s sometimes. 17 is just a safe place to sell, and you're going to net yourself about 93K in profit over the 12. I'm 11 hours now, but 12, 13-hour craft, depending on how high your skill is. Great overnight, long-term craft, makes you decent money, and really helps out your flea market rating. Emergency waters. You can make these with full water bottles and do okay now that Keck tape is starting to get cheaper. Once Keck tape gets down to like 20K, this craft will really start to make more sense. Especially because you can almost always sell EWRs much higher than 20K. Right now they're here at this, but 25 is not a stretch. Even though that's a peak, that is not a stretch to get 25,000 out of these and push this craft up a little bit higher. And even more so if you drink up your bottles of water and count those as zeros. We'll talk about it specifically for this craft, but it's a banger once you do that, right? This craft really takes off. But that also brings into play things like the kvass. If you have 2 water bottles that are drank up, whiskeys, if you have 2 water bottles that'll drink up, and even vodkas, if you drink all 5 of them up, zero cost, buy your moonshine, you can spend whatever you want on it, and vodka is going to follow moonshine. It always does. So right now you're seeing peaks in the 26, 27, 28. I will actually go look at the flea market. We will see where the top is right now, where it kind of hit last night. Probably around, my guess would be here in the 28K range. This is probably where it peaked last night, was 27, 28. So you could sell for less than that pretty easily. Oops, wrong screen. So let's go in here. We'll put in 26K just to be safe. And it turns this into a 17K an hour craft, 25K profit. But this is fantastic for grinding out flea market rating. It's one of the fastest ways to do it. So even if you're just breaking even, which I think you do pretty close with, you lose a little bit of money with if you buy your water bottles. Yeah, you lose about 40K at this thing here unless you can get your moonshine cheaper, which sometimes you can. Sometimes moonshine dips, but moonshine is just going to steady climb now. So if you see it at like 200K, buy up as much of it as you can because it's not going to stay there. And you have the money to do it. Craft these. You can sit on them for a while and try to push because they will eventually get to that like 35K point, I believe. 30, 35K. And it just helps with your flea market rating. So that's everything in the nutrition unit. Water collectors, pretty straightforward. Just buy water filters. Like, I don't encourage people to like predict the market, but right now water filters are just dirt cheap. And we know these are going to go to like 100K. So, I mean, if you have money to spare and burn and space, and can't just buy up water filters because it's just going to be free money for you. I mean, you can see how much money you're making right now, 144,000 per sale if you're getting your water filters at 27K. And that's only going to get better as you level up higher and higher. Workbench, there's tons here to talk about. I'm going to go through it kind of quickly though. The 3 main crafts I am doing right now are printed circuit boards, pliers, and then wires. Now, those aren't the best. Those are the ones I pick because they're fast and easy. It's one component here, one component there. I shoot for 12K on my DVDs, and I just sell the printed circuit boards market. Sometimes you can get like 25K out of these. If you get lucky and catch these high, they'll spike to like 25K, and you make just fucking tons of money. But 18K is pretty normal. And they don't take up much space in your scav junk box. I sell them in stacks of like 20, give or take. You guys see me do it on stream all the time. Pliers, these are just vendor trash. Buy your yellow ones under 10K. Same story as last wipe. Really easy craft. Buy them under 10K. Sell these back to therapists for 17 if you want. Excuse me. I will actually sell these on the flea market. I'll do it right now to show you guys how it works. For euros or dollars, depending on what I want, because you get that little bit of exchange rate buff there and it makes it worthwhile to me. And I think it's like 140, 145. No, that was dollars. $145, give or take. 35? 135? 120, 130? 125? Yeah. So $125. I'll list these like this. They pop up underneath. People will buy them because they're cheaper and they can just vendor them. And they don't like their dollars sometimes, and it's a way to squeeze just a little bit more out of your pliers if you want and get that flea market rating. But vendoring them is by far the safest thing to do because you get the most bang for your buck, and it's just quick and easy. Power cords, 23K right now. They got really cheap for a little while. We saw power cords do this really crash for a few hours, and I wasn't sure if they were going to stay down there. It doesn't look like they are because they're already back up into the 30K range. But 23 for these prices, if you want this really thing, 23K on your power cords, 13K on your wires. Again, they got really cheap. We may see these chase back up with power cords after the weekend. Again, I'm not going to be really good at predicting stuff this wipe, guys, because the short wipe and the economy is just not what it's ever been before. It's not repetitive. So I'm not going to feel comfortable super predicting stuff. Another really good craft you can roll with right now is Kite Eagle matches for the red gunpowder. Hang on just a sec, guys. Neighbors weed eating. I hope you guys can't hear that. Sorry. So you can just vendor this. 22K to therapist. Will get you. That's how you just craft these and vendor them to therapist, and it gets you 32K an hour, 17K perch, 33-minute craft. So this is actually really good for most raids. For me, that's right around where one raid is going to be, unless I die, obviously, and then whatever. But you can keep this craft going pretty consistently. The components are easy to get and stock up on. Yes, there's a lot of them, but like matches, you can even get matches much cheaper than 7K. And as everybody knows that's been here for a while, if you're new here, the biggest thing, you make money by how you buy your components, not really where you sell. Selling is kind of whatever. If you can get your components cheap, that's where you're going to really make your money. The Nixter craft, again, doing okay. I think I'm off on my prediction price here. 75. Oh, no, I was right on 75K. 75K is the peak that you're going to get for these, maybe a little bit more. You can make 40K an hour. Just make sure you're doing your barter for the camera to get it about 35K. It might even be a little bit cheaper now. But the cameras, don't buy them off the fleet. Get them through the mechanic barter, which is right here. It's loyalty level 1. Everybody should have it. 1 EC and 1 power bank. So we're probably actually down into like the 25K range for this now. We'll say 30K just to be safe, because you can 100% do it for that. And again, pushes it up to about 42K an hour. So Nixers are a doable craft. Capacitors, if you can get your PSUs for 40K or less, caps hit almost every your power supply units. Your 40K or less. Your capacitors are almost always going to hit 18K every night, sometimes higher. This run up happens once in a while. It's impossible to predict. It's just at the end of the night, people aren't selling capacitors. They're not there, so they run out, and people are buying them up for various other crafts, including the defib craft. So it's pretty easy to get 18K almost every night on your stack. Now, you can get PSUs sometimes much cheaper than 40K. It's kind of hard right now because they're being bought up for things in the hideout. So if you see them under 40K, buy them for sure. Because if you get, like, let's say you get these down at like 35K, whoopsies. You can see what it does here. Bumps it to 32K, puts it above some of these other crafts. So just something to keep in mind. Gas analyzers, if you can get them down cheap, sure, you can do the printed circuit board craft. You know, if you want to do these and only DVDs, and that way you only have one component to sell in a big stack, nothing wrong with that. You're not going to make quite as much money, but it is easier to handle. VOGs can be crazy. They can be really profitable. They are worth more on the flea market, obviously, for that flea market rating, especially if you can get your fuses cheap. Sometimes you'll see these fuses dip down into like the 9K range, which really does impact how much you will get out of this. TP200s don't usually get any cheaper than that, and that's pretty much your vendor price for it, I believe. She pays $22,000. Yeah, so I probably should bump this to 23 just to be safe. But you are not going to get those cheaper, and even if you get them non-found on raid, it's the same price to sell. So fuses is where you're going to make it. And I put VOGs at 20K, but they will push 25. It just depends on if you want them to sell or not. We'll go, I think, let me go look here and see. See if I can get to one real quick. If we look, see where they peaked out at. Yeah, so they probably peaked out about 24, 25K last night. Just remember that if you're using VOGs, there's a barter for them, so don't spend that kind of money because it's just a fuse. 366 AP is a really good long craft if you can get SP6 out of raid. So if you kill somebody with a VSS, make sure you're checking the ammo, checking ammo crates. You need 50 rounds of it per craft, and it's going to net you 170,000 in profit. It's an overnight craft, obviously. And sometimes even better. Like I've got 24 in here, but you can definitely, I just left the market price in here to make an example of it, but you can definitely get 3,000 or 3,200 on these, especially if you're willing to sit. The challenge is the SP6. Now, once you get leveled up on proper, you can buy from proper for about 22, it was 2,200 basically, which you can see what that does to this craft. It's still a good craft, and it's still going to help out your flea market rating, but it does take a pretty big bite out of it. The big one is to get these out of raid. Proper, what was it? Proper buys them, or Mechanic buys them for 645. That is the price I put in there because they vendor for that. They're worth even vendoring loot. They're worth vendor loot, picking them up as it is, but at that price, you can just see what you're getting out of that SP6. Magnets are an easy craft. It's hard to get 28K. You can do it, but it happens like every couple of days, not quite every night. Like I did it last night, it looks like. I like this craft again because you can just get hard drives cheap. If you see them under 10K, snatch them up. If they're much more than that, it's not really worth it. It is a little bit longer of a craft, but again, it's an easy thing. Doesn't take up a lot of space once you're done. As far as other long crafts, you've got PBM. This is a little bit riskier. PBM's kind of all over the place. I wish we could find a way to filter stuff like that out. Let me pull it up in the flea market right now to show you guys specifically where we're at. It was at like 650 last night, but you can see now it's down into like the 400s. But it will hit 600s and it will sell. These guys are just going to time out if they're not careful. And because of that, if you can get 550 out of PBM, it's 70K profit for an overnight craft. If you can get I'll change this to like 7. Let's change to 650 just to be consistent here. You can see it bumps it up to 87. So there's a lot of potential here. It's just a little bit more risky. It doesn't take up a lot of space. So you could sit on this for a couple of days and then just list a big stack of it over the weekend or something if you wanted to, which is when it's really going to sell. Next up is Piranha. This is a great use if you've got metal fuel cans. You're going to make about 84K profit. It's only a 5-hour craft. So it's not going to run all night on you, but it's going to put out decent amount of money. Piranha is selling for a lot because flechettes just aren't there. I put 2,400 in, but as you can see, regularly it's hitting like 3,000. So even if you're at like 2,800, you can see this profit jumps up to about 100K. Now you're talking about the same range as your your 366 AP rounds. So they're there. Just one of those things to keep track of as far as that. And then PP. This does okay overnight as well. It's a long craft. It makes decent money. Bolts can be hard to get at 16K, but if you get them, just buy your PS off of proper. And then 353, you can get more than 353. I list 353 on here because that is one under what proper pays for it. But I'll just pull it up here real quick to show you specifically what I'm talking about. So I always list right here at 353 because it sells right away, right? But you can get more for it. I have seen this push into the 400s because people buy up their limit and they want more. And PP is just as good as BP. And I might do a video here this wipe talking about ammos, specifically ammos like that save you money. So if you can get this into like even the 450 range with where everything's at, you can start seeing that you really start to get into some profit with those. So just something to keep an eye out for the workbench. But that's pretty much all of it. Again, don't hesitate to ask questions in the Discord if you guys have them. That's what it's there for, is for you guys to have direct communication with me that I pay more attention to than anywhere else. So thank you guys for the support as always. Hope this is helpful. We'll see you guys in Tarkov.